This is a terrible idea. This is also really bad. This is extra bad. This is even worse. Definitely don't do this. This is awful. This crazy South African man picks up a screwdriver, yeets it into the filter. Today we're going to go through some of the worst things that you might be doing to your bike, and at the end of the video we're going to look at the weirdest one. This one's an obvious one, but yet so many people overlook it. Whilst most people are quite good at servicing their bike, they do forget that changing the oil and the oil filter aren't the only things you need to be doing. The most overlooked item that I see is the air filter. I don't really understand why people don't change it. It makes no sense to me. It's often the cheapest serviceable thing. It's often the easiest, fastest. I just don't get it. Why wouldn't you change it? Dirty fuel. This one isn't so relevant if you've got a newer bike, but nonetheless, if you've got very old fuel in your tank, get rid of it, put some new stuff in. Especially coming up to summer, bike's been sat over winter. How old is it? How old's the fuel, eh? Change it. Especially with E10 being about nowadays, we found that stuff breaks down so quickly in comparison to normal fuel. So yeah, if you're going to start your bike with old fuel and you've used E10, it's probably not working because it's no longer fuel. Next one. Not letting the bike warm up. Another really obvious one that my neighbour fails to do every single day is not letting the vehicle warm up. I see him, goes in, starts the car, literally zooms off straight away. Makes me cringe every time. I'm not very smart, but I'm going to do my best to explain this. So, when metal heats up, it expands. Parts of an engine will only reach optimal clearances once the engine is warm. Failing to warm the bike up will therefore lead to premature wear. Basically, just warm it up before you send it. Now it's time for some honourable mentions. These ones are kind of like not really relevant, but they also are quite relevant. Loose parts, loose bolts, loose nuts. If you've just finished a big build or an overhaul on your bike, then it's a very good idea to give it a bolt check. 9 times out of 10 you will have forgotten to tighten something up, so basically go over it and make sure that that's something that you have forgot is something minor, like a fairing bolt instead of, I don't know, your clip-ons. That would be bad. Could you imagine the scenes if you're blasting down the road and your clip-ons just start sliding down the forks? You're in for a bad time. Or maybe one of your foot peg falls off. It's all bad stuff, so just give it a check. On the other hand, tightening things up too much, it can be equally as bad. For example, the last time that you changed your wheel bearings, did you look up for torque specs? Or did you just wham it on with an impact gun and hope it's right? Okay, time for the weird one. Picture this, you're servicing your bike, you're changing the oil. You go to take off the old oil filter. No matter how hard you try, you just can't get that thing off. Giving it your all, just not moving. You rummage through your tool sack and you don't have the correct tool to remove the oil filter. Well, I was in that situation and my dad was like, oh hey Rich, this is exactly what you shouldn't do when you're in this situation. And he showed me by doing it. This crazy South African man picks up a screwdriver, yeets it into the filter and calmly turns the thing and it comes loose. And I'm just sat there in pure shock of what's just happened because I've just spent the last half an hour breaking my hands trying to get the thing off. Now, although that looks smart and it worked impeccably well in our situation, I still wouldn't recommend it. As you can see from these photos, you can imagine just how bad these people were themselves. One of my colleagues told me the other day that he tried this trick and yeah, it didn't work and he had a very big bill to pay.